Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to our podcast. It's Off Point at 30, where we like to go off point because we're 30.
I'm Marlon White.
And I'm Les Steed.
So, how are you doing this week, man?
Honestly, it's actually been alright. I've managed to get myself a little job, a couple of little jobs actually. So I've gone from being unemployed to being double employed.
Oh, wow.
And now I've got to balance 2 jobs out. One of them's in media, which is fantastic. Been writing stories about little dogs and things like that all week, which, to be honest with you, I absolutely love. Like, everyone's all like, oh no, it's not proper news. I'm like, yeah, of course it's not. It's fucking great. Like, everyone's all like, yeah, because this is the kind of shit that people kind of like to click, and we know that statistically.
So, do you want to introduce the episode then?
Okay, so today we're talking about sort of the Me Too movement and gender issues. Obviously, we're 2 blokes sitting here discussing it, so we're not going to try and offend anybody, and we're not trying to sort of, and for the record, we're neither of us against anything to do with women's rights or anything like that. And we're not, well, I'd like to think we're not chauvinistic pricks.
I'm definitely not.
Yeah, I
hope not anyway.
Yeah,
not intentionally.
You never know how you come across it. That's the other problem. And that's the major point that we were going to start with, actually, is the fact that it is quite difficult, actually, now kind of trying to gauge how to behave. Because, I mean, as I've discussed before, I have ADHD, which means that one of the things that I've always struggled with, particularly before I was diagnosed, is behaving appropriately. Not sort of, I'm not going around grabbing arses here, but it's just that sometimes I just say stuff that in my head is funny, but actually isn't. And like, often what I find is that, because I also have a bit of an awkward sense of humour, I quite like sort of that reaction humour, you know, like, I think Ricky Gervais did it a lot in The Office, where everyone's like, and I thought that was, I just thought it was quite funny, but I think that there's a difference that I don't always appreciate between real life, where you're actually offending somebody who's going to go away and feel offended or feel upset or frustrated or take it personally, and what's going on in your head, which is almost a stand-up type thing. And you know, and the thing that always gets me is that people smile and nod and laugh, but I can't tell the difference between a real laugh
or fake laugh or awkward. I think because I know for me in particular, I when I find things awkward, I might just give it a little laugh, or I might like, either twat, but I just laugh. Yeah,
I get the awkward, I give my own awkward laugh just to sort of make myself feel better sometimes, I think.
But you said you can't tell the difference.
Not really. I mean, like, I don't hear my own laugh until people point it out, and I didn't realise I was doing it about 5 years ago when one of my best mates told me. So, yeah.
So I think, like, in regards to the like Me Too movement, I think as a society of men, we kind of have learned behaviour where you don't realise what you might be saying or doing is wrong.
Yeah,
I think now we're getting more and more information, and I think it's not like as blatant as we think, where obviously assaulting a woman or harassing a woman.
Yeah, no one's going to. Well, I mean, I'd hope,
but there might be little things you say or do that we might not even realise that we do.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that I wouldn't say I've struggled with it. I haven't really, but I've most definitely offended a few people. But then there's also that whole sort of counter argument of, you know, the fact that you can't really please everyone. I know that as a teacher, 1 in 10 of my students probably hated me for no reason at all that I could control.
In life, even if you went around giving out money, somebody's going to hate you.
Oh yeah, because they can be like, who's that rich fucker just showing off?
Yeah, exactly.
But I think that, and I think that's quite a frustration, particularly in a situation where, like a working environment, the one that I worked in before, as I've said before, was quite a quiet place. And this is just an example. I actually quite like the place. I like the people. But I found myself occasionally offending people who were particularly sensitive about things like race or something like that. Because my ex-girlfriend was Asian, and we had this running joke between us of her being like, pipe down, white boy. And I'd be like, pipe down, Asian. Ooh. And and the thing is, though, that to us, it was funny because in a private context, that was funny. But one particular colleague of mine was Asian,
so she essentially allowed you to say that, and she found it funny.
Yeah, I mean, like, they used to call me that white boy.
Out of context, that kind of thing.
Oh yeah, it seems pretty damn racist. But that was the funny thing for us, was that obviously we weren't racist.
Do you ever make any sexist jokes?
Yeah, quite often. Particularly, like, you know, and I think that again, it depends on context. Yeah. So I think that sometimes it can be quite funny to sort of come across as like an abhorrent chauvinist, because of course you're not going to think that stuff. But it goes back to what I was saying before, where it's like, I will say something that I know is completely outrageous because it's fun to get that reaction.
You know what I hate about society nowadays? I think everybody's putting on a false pretense of being absolutely perfect.
Yeah.
That I've said or done no wrong.
Yeah, it's
I think
faces.
It's a learning curve. You grow up as a young man and you kind of... There's stuff I think every young man has done.
Well, not just men and women as well. Women as well.
That you have done growing up, not realizing what you're doing is wrong. You kind of fall on other people or just not realizing as a young person. And I think as you get older, you kind of learn from those mistakes.
Yeah, but you still have to make them.
Yeah, you make the mistakes, but you also learn. But I think also there's levels to the mistakes you can make. If you fall on a sexually assault or somebody, I don't think that's something you go, I made a mistake.
Yeah, if you grab the wrong person's bum when you think it's your girlfriend, you've accidentally grabbed the wrong bum, then you're in trouble. You probably get slapped, and you just but it's an accident.
Yeah.
If, however, you're being had a go at for one, and it also depends on the person as well. It's completely subjective. I think I got in trouble once because I made a sarcastic quip about some teenage beauty queen at work, and my boss took umbrage. He got really upset. He threw the fucking book at me, and I'll tell you what, I ended up sitting in an office having to explain myself for making a pretty, it wasn't the cleanest thing I ever said, but it wasn't anything criminal.
Yeah.
And I was up against the wall for it. I was being told that, and of course, because, in my head, I felt like a sex offender. I felt like an absolute dirty criminal. And again, that goes back to my mentality and the way that my brain works. But you do end up sitting there having to defend something that just rolled off my tongue without thinking.
What do you think about cancel culture in that instant? Because we recently had a string of celebrities being kind of their career cancelled for stuff they done 20, 30 years ago. Do you think... Also, we have the Harvey Weinsteins, the R. Kellys.
Oh, yeah, but that's quite an end.
Also, those are extreme
You can't be masturbating over people and stuff.
And they are fucked up. Also, they are pieces of shit for what they did, and they deserve everything they're getting right now. But what do you think of what the cancel culture where people go back to something you did maybe 20, 30 years ago? Or it's a mistake. It could be just a mistake you did.
And like a flipping tweet or something like that. Yeah, I think that if anybody ever went back through my history, I'd be fucked.
Yeah. Because, I think we'll all be fucked.
Yeah, I make a lot of mistakes, especially socially, and one of the many reasons. And it doesn't. But the fact is that I now feel that I need to reason that by saying I had or have, this condition.
Yeah. So to double back, I'm not saying what these two people did, Harvey Weinstein or R. Kelly did it anyway.
R. Kelly was fucking ridiculous. Did you hear about that?
Anyway, justifiable.
He made them all call him daddy.
Yeah, I heard about it.
Like, wasn't that contractual or something creepy as fuck?
So yeah,
you got pissing on him.
I'm no way ever saying that was ever like...
Yeah, but the thing is that right now you feel like the need to justify that and make him...
But I'm talking about like maybe people that have done something that they should have done and then they kind of grown past it a long time ago.
Yeah,
and then now they've been held accountable for it. Or even now, you might make a mistake now, say something now that you didn't really think through or you didn't think will go a certain way, and now your career is forever cancelled.
Yeah, but I wouldn't say it was cancelled, but because look at what Donald Trump manages. Yeah. He literally said grab him by the pussy and sold T-shirts to people for it. So I think it depends on how you handle it.
Yeah, it depends who. Yeah,
but it's kind of, I think that Trump is sort of almost paving the way, and is quite literally said in grab him by the pussy gate or whatever they're calling it. If you're powerful and rich, you can get away with shit.
Yeah.
Not only can you get away with grabbing them by the pussy, that's just a disgusting thing to say. But he has got away with it. He's gotten away with fucking everyone around his wife's back. No one cares.
Yeah. I don't think everybody can get away with just being powerful and rich, because lately a lot of rich people are being taken down.
Well, I'd hope so, because you got
the Kevin Spaceys, you got the R. Kelly, you got the Harvey Weinsteins,
Prince Andrew now, really.
Yeah, the Prince Andrew. The list is going on.
Yeah,
all these powerful people have been taken down, and rightfully so. I think they people was allowed to get away with stuff just because.
Looking at what happened to Weinstein, he raped, he really attacked a lot of women.
He deserved it.
He deserved worse than 29 years. When you consider that there was a guy who got 16 years for burning the rainbow flag, I think that Weinstein basically, he created a culture of it. And it's unbelievable, and that's so fucked up.
What annoys me about that is just that a lot of these guys, you can get any woman. Why would you want to ruin somebody's life?
His wife.
Yeah, you got a wife. You can get any, and if you're like a scumbag that wants to cheat on their wife anyway, you can get any woman you want, and without doing that to them, ruining their life. That makes me think you're some sort of monster anyway, because
I think that
you just get off on making people feel like shit and abusing your power.
Because I think that also it's kind of like, I mean, sexual assault. Because I would always have imagined it before. I imagined it as being about a guy getting really desperate for sex and then just attacking somebody to have sex. Because of that urge to have sex.
It's actually interesting.
But it's not. It's about power.
Yeah, it's very interesting. What they say about that. You're less those type of rapes that we think of somebody walking down late at night and it gets dragged into an alleyway and violently assaulted and raped. Those are less common than you think, as opposed to like somebody that you thought you could trust going like to their house or to their whatever. Yeah,
and then suddenly they're pushing it on you.
Yeah, it's like there's a lot of people assaulted by somebody that they know or trusted.
Yeah.
Or respected as well, like so.
And the problem with that is that it's all quite subjective as well, because, for example, I mean, obviously, if a girl says no, then you back down.
Should.
But there are different shades of no. The worst part is that in court of law, you have to objectively prove, something that is inherently subjective.
Yeah.
Because you can't say, because no one can tell you how you felt.
It's interesting though. What I was thinking of these cases though. They happened like 14 years ago. Some of these cases. How did they gather enough evidence to convict them?
I reckon for that kind of conviction, it would have been more the fact that there was so many. It was the weight of people making the same accusation but in different ways, and then the number of other witnesses who could corroborate what they were saying repeatedly, because it was so sort of open. It was such an open secret that it wasn't one. But it was just something that was taboo to talk about.
Yeah.
But the problem is though that kind of behaviour was propagated for so long, and that almost passively okayed. And I think that's wrong. I think obviously it's wrong, but we're looking with 2020 hindsight quite literally from 2020, and we're looking back at crimes that started in the 70s.
It's interesting. When a few years ago, when the Americans were talking about the rape culture, I thought, what the hell is that? Like, what is rape culture? Like,
it's really bad.
I thought that was like ridiculous. I thought, like, what are you talking about? That's bullshit. But then when you think about it, like, I think a lot of us were brought up in this culture, not thinking certain things are wrong.
Yeah, I think that also when you're quite young, there's quite a lot of confusion about. I mean, I wouldn't say the consent was ever particularly confusing. I think that if a girl's unconscious, don't fuck her. I think that's pretty simple. I think that if a girl says, no, I don't want to have sex with you, it's not on the cards.
Yeah.
If a girl says, no, I just want to watch a movie, but, I don't really want to make out. And I think, and also, I mean,
so, like, to go
do you want to have sex? It's not hard to ask.
A lot of this stuff is something you learn as you get older. You learn, like, tomorrow's another day. So you don't, like, just because you want to get with a girl on a night out, you don't have to. Like, tomorrow's definitely another day. Like,
yeah, I think there's also a lot of.
And if it's not meant to be, it's not meant to be. There's gonna be other girls that you can get. You don't need to try to force yourself on somebody. No. You don't need to like take advantage of somebody that's.
And also the power dynamic of it. I don't understand that at all.
So you don't need to do that. I think that's something that also comes with age. I think as a young person, you're kind of like, if I'm gonna lose this opportunity forever, so I'm gonna try. Do whatever. Try
and do as much as I can, but as much as I can get away with almost. And I think that, and you end up committing crimes that are horrible. But I mean, personally, I've not really had that before myself because I was always very careful about that.
Yeah, me too as well. Because from a young age, I had my uncle, for example, just always warned me about how. No.
Like, let them make the first move. Simple.
And I was always aware, and I was like, as soon as a girl was to say no, I don't want to do whatever, I'm completely backing off.
It takes a lot of courage to do that, I think, and I think but also for a bloke to say no.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I think that I remember one of the cases that one person I slept with, we had a chat about it afterwards because it was, when it gets awkward and you're like sitting there, it's like, well, I'm trying, there's this sort of almost like compulsive like push that if a girl wants to have sex with you and you're in that position and you're anxious, I mean, there's a lot of anxiety that men don't talk about that goes around it. Because think about it, if we don't perform, especially on a one night stand or something like that, especially if it's somebody who's linked to your circle of friends or something like that, you're having a nice time, but you don't perform, then there's a lot of embarrassment around that because
word gets around.
Oh yeah, word gets around. Number one, number two, they can say anything about you.
Yeah.
And number three, you don't want to end up hurting their feelings because you just don't want to have sex with them. But equally, it is again an opportunity to have sex, which is something as well. And then it's also the fact that
Do you also feel as a man that, like, say a girl was to throw, like, you was out somewhere and the girl was to throw themselves at you? Do you feel as a man that you have to go through with it just because?
No, I think though that there was no.
You don't ever have that feeling like I might not be up for it, but I'm like.
It's a may as well type have sex. I mean, like, for example, if your girlfriend's kind of horny and you're like, if they want to put in the back work, then that's absolutely fine.
No, I'm talking about somebody you just met. Like, do you feel like?
No, I don't think. I think that kind of gets to a stage where you're a bit freaked out. Yeah. I mean, I found myself feeling quite freaked out before, but I mean, it very rarely happens because let's face it, we're not all Casanovas. But,
speak for yourself.
Well, I do. I can't really speak for you, to be honest. But I think that when situations like that do occur, which are very, very few between, because we're not exactly sexual selectors. I do think that it's very unnerving.
I know. I felt that. I felt that like where like. Yeah, I can't really walk away from the situation where she's throwing herself at me. I pretty much you have to go through it.
Yeah, I had a situation like that where this girl had she just lost her best friend and stuff, and she was hiding out at ours because it was a culture clash, and she just needed somewhere to have some space. So I cut you
quickly.
Go on.
Back to what I was saying. There is like you kind of know that you might be annoyed with yourself later, so you sort of like.
So is that pressure coming from you, or is that pressure coming from
coming from you, and also maybe if your friends see you with her and you're like, oh, you didn't do anything, what's wrong with you? Yeah,
what's wrong with her, in your mind? And then it becomes about their insecurities and not about you.
So first of all, so you're like, oh, you're going to be annoyed with yourself later on, and then your friends are going to take the piss out of you later on. So you just like, Mark, just get that out of the way.
So I'd never sort of call the art of lovemaking getting it out of the way, Marlon.
So back to what you're saying.
No, I had a situation once where this girl was a bit older than me, and I was about sort of 17, 18, and she was a couple of years. She was like 22, 23, and like she'd just gone through a really horrible thing, and she needed some space. So I was like, well, look, come stay at mine. She was somebody I met on holiday about a year or two beforehand, and I was like, come stay at mine. She stays at mine. She was like really, really upset, so I gave her a big hug, and I was like, well, when you're 18, you're like, okay, well, what do you do under these circumstances? So, I just kind of, I made a cocktail, and, sort of took her for a drink, and we, listened to her, or at least I did my best. I was 18, I'm probably not, probably remembering it in rose-tinted glasses, but, you give them a hug, and you basically hug until the crying stops, because that's what you do when people are upset. Which is what I do anyway. I'm a big hugger. And but then she sort of started kissing me and things like that, and I was like, well, looking back, I mean, I wouldn't say I was sexually assaulted or anything like that at all, but it was awkward because it's like this person's like just upset, and you're like, well, I just want you to be happy. I'm not saying that hey, please, my penis is going to make every woman happy, but I'm saying that like it was just a very slightly awkward situation of like, well, is this okay? Because she was a little bit drunk, but I got her drunk, but I hadn't got her drunk, if you know what I mean. I just made drinks because it was where we were at my place. And I was being a good host, but then that kind of becomes a question of like, okay, so, where's, I always felt a bit awkward about it afterwards. And, because it's something that I wasn't really attracted to this person, but, but I don't feel like, I don't regret it, but I just don't feel like it was something. How old did you
say you was, and how old was she?
I was 18 and she was, I think, in her early 20s. But I can't really remember the details because obviously it was about 10, 15, 12 years ago.
No, I saw a clip on, I think it was Facebook, about somebody that was like in their 20s having sex with a 13-year-old.
Oh, yeah, no, actually, I wrote that story.
Yeah.
I wrote that one, yeah. So, no, I didn't write that one. Sorry, one of my colleagues did, yeah. Okay, actually, she was 17 when she started having sex with the guy who was 13.
Yeah.
Which is weird. But it's that she's now 20 and the kids now would be sort of 3 years down the line, so he'll be about 15, 16. He can be interviewed, but he can't be named. We can't identify him. We can't tell who he is, whatever. But firstly, I mean, it's a 17-year-old who's hanging out with a 13-year-old to start with, which is a bit odd. But okay, fine, whatever, But yeah, I mean, the fact that.
But is it bad that as a society that seems less gross?
Yeah, that's what we discussed this in the office, and it's. I mean, it's tricky because, I mean, that age gap is less than mine and my girlfriend's is now. Like we said before, it's less than my ex-girlfriend and I. You know, most couples are 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
And I think that the fact that it's a woman doing it to a boy, had it been the other way around, had it been a 17-year-old boy who got a 13-year-old girl pregnant, obviously, if, you know, I mean, or if the boy had ended up pregnant, I don't know, like, hypothetically, had it been the other way around gender-wise, then it would have been a very different crime.
Because I've been hearing a lot of stories about it with a lot of these celebrities, where like some of them have been having sex since they're 8 years old with like older women, and it's like a part of you is like you find it funny and then find
it's
it
not
a
funny.
joke, but when you like looking back on it now, that's sexual abuse. That person got molested,
definitely.
Really.
And the 13-year-old kid in this case, he said that it felt a bit weird afterwards. And like, you know, but I mean,
I think there is like something as like being too young for certain things.
Yeah.
Or like even if you're like even if you want to do it, this person's an adult.
Well, I'd say I think that 17, 18. I mean, I'd like to say we've all done awkward things, but I haven't had sex with a 13-year-old age 17. No. And it never really was on the cards.
You're essentially an adult and you have it with a child. It's like you kind of know the world better than them. You have a better understanding.
I mean, 2 or 3 years at that age does make a lot of difference. But then it's more the fact that she continued that relationship and while she was with another guy as well, and then she's kind of like having it off with this kid. I think it was a real mess.
Now I'm older. I think that's out of each other both ways around.
I wouldn't. Well, yeah, I would. I'd say that. But I think ultimately this girl came to his house. This kid's minding his own business playing PlayStation. This girl's coming to his house and then been like, all right, you know, have a kiss and a cuddle, fine. You know, I mean, like, whatever. I mean, like, that's their relationship, fine. But I think that when it's...
I think as a society, like, as men as well, especially, you kind of look at it like, oh, nice. A guy with an older woman, you're like, oh, nice. You don't really think... That's the sort of the mentality, but like, looking back on it, looking at it now properly, it's wrong.
It's
completely
messed
wrong.
up. Yeah. It's really weird. And I think that... But I mean,
like if you saw like a photo of like a 21-year-old with whatever, like somebody 14-year-old guy.
Yeah, but that's really weird.
It's wrong. Like
but
like I think in the past the thinking was like, oh, that person's luckiest boy in the world, but it's like no, it's not.
No, it's wrong. Yeah, and then but also you had the other thing where you had these girls who were the cool girls, and they would be going out with older guys and stuff, but.
That's wrong.
It was weird. Yeah. It was really weird because, I mean, looking back, I had a friend of mine who, well, I say friend, he was a dick, but he would hang out with me to get to the girls who were in my year, and he was 2 years older than us, but no one for 3 or 4 years stopped to think, where are his friends?
Yeah.
You know, and like our parents were saying like, well, okay, you know, because I mean, I had a friend who was a childhood friend that, you know, like I'd hang out with, and that's how I ended up meeting this bloke. But the fact that my other mate was like, okay, you know, like, you guys be you, whatever, and like, you know, like we'd have parties and stuff together. It was really good fun, but it was like the fact that this other guy was like, you know, like he didn't have a real link other than he was there to score. You know, like he wasn't there in the end really to be there to be friends with us, or you know, like to hang out with me and these girls that I knew, and you know, like and my other mate who was hanging out with me anyway because we were, you know, like we grew up in the same place. He was coming along to sort of to just get with 15-year-old girls when he was 17, 18.
It's weird.
I mean, I don't know, 15 to 17 is fine.
Not bad.
I mean, that's not really weird. I mean, I mean, no one's going to jail for dating a 15-year-old when you're 17. Nobody. Yeah. But it's the fact that when you've got like girls who are going out, you know, like when you're like in year 9 and you're going out with a college guy.
After I went past the age of 16, I was very conscious of not trying to do anything with somebody under the age of 16.
I was always intimidated by the girls above my year.
When I hit 16. Even when I was in school, I didn't even look at like anybody the year below me. No. And then it's only when I got like above 16, I started looking at girls like between the ages of like 18 to 16 when I was 16.
I was so intimidated by girls
when I was at that age. That's the only time. But like when I was 16, 17, look, I would never look at a 15-year-old.
I couldn't talk to girls in the year above because I was like, "You're in the year above." Ooh. But everyone else seemed fine. I just got this weird social hierarchy in my head where I was like, "No, we couldn't possibly talk to them. They're scary." But actually, all of them just people. Yeah.
I always thought that was a bit weird because I heard about people like 17 like getting with 14-year-olds and stuff like that. It was weird. And I always thought that was weird, and I was like, no.
I think with
I was just conscious of like the law. Really, I was like, I'm not gonna
Yeah, I also think though. I mean, like I
not worth your freedom. Fuck that.
No, it's not. And also, but then again, I mean, who's going to arrest people for? I mean, no one's going to arrest teenagers for being with each other until it gets to a stage where
might do.
Actually, no, they probably would. I mean, if you're 18 going out with a 13-year-old, then yeah, there's a problem.
Yeah.
But equally, that's the same gap that we discussed earlier between me and my girlfriend now.
But it's different that we're older now. It's different.
Yeah, I think
we're all adults here, so whatever age you want to date, as long as you're happy with it, it's fine. But when somebody's a minor, somebody's a child, and you're an adult, that's a big problem.
Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah. To go back to the R. Kelly situation, he was making hundreds of millions of dollars for his record label. So can you think about how much jobs he was creating?
Yeah.
Was just his career? And it was like...
But now he's a has-been. He's fair game. And
now the money's dried up and he has no more hush money. Yeah. Now all these people are all sort of suddenly moral now. Like,
now they can sue him because he's untouched. He's more touchable. Yeah. And I think the same thing with Harvey Weinstein. Once that thing broke, he's completely fair game.
Yeah.
And
but it kind of shows how like people
being useful for society almost.
How people morals are all to do with how economic gain sort of thing. Like
gains full stop really.
Yeah.
I mean,
So, like, once their money's dried up, now, yes.
Not even if their money's dried up, if their fame's dried up. And exactly, if going forums and
they're no longer youthful, we can let them.
But I don't think that any.
But for nearly 20 odd years, people allowed R. Kelly to do all these things.
Yeah, and it wasn't.
Nobody had a problem. No musician had a problem. Like, they want to do songs with him. Now he's all like washed up. People are like, oh yeah, he's a horrible person. He's a homo human being. But like, you knew that.
Yeah, like 20 years ago, it's if you were sitting there having, doing cocaine across the table from him, being like, oh, hang about, this guy's a druggie.
Yeah, you knew this. Everybody knew this.
It's crazy.
Nobody had, even myself. I'm guilty of this. I listen to his music. I got his albums.
Well, yeah, but you're allowed to be his fan. Yeah. You can still, I mean, for example, I still quite like Weinstein films from the old days. It doesn't mean that I'm a bad person for enjoying a film.
It depends. That's different. I guess that's a bit different because
it's not just him who did it. Yeah.
Like for me, like I can't really listen to somebody that I don't stand for that, and I can't listen to him anymore, especially if he's indirectly talking about what he's doing in the songs. Yeah,
and once you get that connotation, it's quite different because it's kind of like this guy's a bit of a creepy pervert. But then again, looking at children's programs,
it's like listening to the memoirs of a paedophile, and you're like, you're sitting there enjoying it. Like, come on,
it's like, but it has got a sick beat. Yeah. No, but like then again, though, it kind of goes back to that whole sort of: are you allowed to be cheeky with, or inappropriate, and what's the level of inappropriate that's acceptable? Because I know that, for example, a lot of kids programs, if you watch The Simpsons, for example, like the early ones, I watched one the other day. I think it was about Mr. Burns, and he ends up getting high as a kite and going out looking like an alien. And it's really funny, but it's something that a little part of the back of my head went, ooh, you wouldn't be able to get away with that now.
Yeah.
And you should be able to. Like, it's
but even
exhausting.
Like stuff like Friends, some of the jokes they make on Friends, you wouldn't be able to get away
lewd
with
and sexist. Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like, but who is stopping people from saying stuff? And also, I think that builds like an element of repression. So in Indonesia, for example, I mean, I keep bringing back to it, but heavily Muslim society, and it's very auto-suppressive. But it leads to ignorance of it gradually, and I'm not saying that Indonesians are ignorant, but I'm saying that in my reporting on sexual health, for example, one of the things I experienced when I was out there was a huge problem with sexual health, because people are like, no, it's taboo, therefore we won't talk about it, and these kids were lost and they needed to know about it, and it's things that. I mean, on the one hand, we're being increasingly sexually liberal. For example, the 50 Shades of Grey thing. Yeah. You're walking around Summers, there's a wall of kink. God bless them. And but equally, if I was to sort of,
so do you think that there should be more taught about sexual health?
Absolutely, yeah. I think that everyone should talk about sex as if it's a normal subject. And I think it's because
I'm thinking about like when I grew up. Like when I learnt about like sex and everything, it was like the age of 10, the age that they come into school and tell you about it, and then that was it.
Yeah, I think we need to stop being squeamish about stuff, and I think that.
And what happened is, with my school particularly, I will always complain about my school, but what happened with my school particularly, they were meant to have another class on it in year 7, but they said that. Yeah, you guys have been really bad, so we're not going to give it to you.
What? So, and like we're not going to give it to you. And then, like 3 years later, why is everyone pregnant? Like, it's so stupid. I think that, like, it's ridiculous. I mean, like, you should never, ever, ever shy away from a topic, especially if it's a kid who's asking you. Yeah. If my kid says, "Dad, what does fuck mean?" I don't have a kid, but but you're damn right, I've got that speech lined up. Like, I'm going to tell them all about it. I'm going to tell them how exactly to use the F word. Like when it's appropriate, when it's not appropriate, why people will be angry when if he or she uses it, if whatever. I don't know. I mean, like, I think that if you don't if you refuse to teach somebody something because it makes you uncomfortable, then you're a fucking idiot, and you're doing them a disservice. And you're not. If you don't want to discuss something, that's fine. But
I think the problem is when that happens is that you learn from people in your school, you learn from people in the street
who are ignorant or don't know,
or lying, or just don't have no experience with that topic really,
or they're full of shit and they're just trying to tell you something to impress you, which is exhausting.
Or you learn from watching videos on the internet or watching TV. Somebody's teaching you something.
Yeah, but then
you don't know what you should probably want to be in charge of what your kid knows. Really,
I don't know. I don't necessarily
not in charge, but
entirely. Because my brother started coding when he was sort of 12, and I didn't know what it was doing, but neither did mum and dad. But
as a parent, would you want to sort of know what your kid's been taught instead of them being taught something randomly in the street by some random person?
I'd want to have a basic understanding of what they understand and what they're being taught. But I don't think I'd ever want to intervene in that. Unless I felt that, and I think that if instead of complaining about how they should be doing better, I feel that if I know better, then it's up to me to teach my kid that. And if I know, but I'm not going to, for example, tell a child that because I come from a teaching background, I also come from a journalism background, and I also am a very, very open person. Hence why we can do this, really. One of the things that I find quite disturbing is when people are kept ignorant on purpose. And I think that is something that has affected me a few times. Don't get me wrong, not everything's everyone's business. When it comes to something I should know, like my ex-girlfriend who lied to me almost throughout our relationship because she felt there was information that I didn't need to know. I feel that enforcing ignorance on somebody is wrong and is as bad as lying to them. And it's part of lying to them as well. So for my new, in my current relationship and the one I had just in between the two, one of the most important factors to me was to be honest with them and they could be honest with me.
So let me ask you, are you 100% honest then, do you think?
I wouldn't say I was 100% honest, don't get me wrong. Everyone has a secret or two. I don't want to... There were things I wouldn't talk about. I mean, there were things, for example, before we started this project that we discussed that we don't want to talk about.
I think we both had a list of stuff that we didn't want to discuss.
It was a very short list.
Yeah, very short list.
But it was literally like 3-4 little life events that we don't want to talk about. But that's because it's an emotional thing. And I think that is something that I wouldn't necessarily want to discuss with my child unless I had to. So if they ended up in a similar situation to the one I was in back then I definitely would discuss it with them because it's less alienating for them. Because I remember being very, very lost when I had a few problems that, again, I can't really bring up. But
would you ever discuss your sex life with your kids?
Objectively, yes, but personally, no, because I don't think they really want to know how much I fucked them up. I think my wife would be sitting there just
random experience,
or
just random experiences.
I mean, there's nothing more. I've been there when my friends' dads have come out with that kind of stuff. Like we were in Indonesia, and one of my mates' dads came to see us, and he got a bit drunk, and he started talking about them girls and stuff like that. There's nothing weirder than when you're like an older pervy guy, and it just kind of felt a bit lechy and awkward because he happened to be hitting on girls that we knew, and I think that goes back to that whole Me Too thing where it's like it's not acceptable to just hit on people like that. But then again, also, I was discussing this with my girlfriend at the moment, and as I mentioned before, she's a little, we used to pull back in the day when Tinder and all that lot didn't exist. So you had to do it the old-fashioned way, which is where you had to go up to a girl who you liked in a bar. You had to go up to her and say, "Hi, I really like you. Can I buy you a drink?" And if she was a bitch, she'd say yes, and then not, and then just tell you to fuck off, which happens. And if she was interested, and that's a huge gamble. If she was interested in you, while you're half drunk enough to actually have the courage to go and say hello, and while you're like sort of nervous as fuck and probably sweating balls and covered in shit paint and your hair's everywhere and you're anxious, then if she likes you enough for that, then she might just give you a number or a fake one, who knows. I mean, I always dreaded the idea of texting somebody saying like, "Hi, it was lovely to meet you last night," and then being like, "Yeah, who's this?" Well, I mean, it's happened a few times to everyone, and I think the internet has kind of made that insecurity go. Yeah. But I was on Bumble and I didn't like it because my pictures are all of just me looking like an egg, and I can't find a decent picture. But then you get the catfish culture. Like I had this, I think we've probably discussed this already, but there was this girl I went in there. I was like, "Oh, I see what you did there." It's not cool, man, and it was a remarkable number. Thinking
to backtrack on to the whole like meeting somebody in the bar thing. I was discussing this with my colleagues the other day, where like how girls' expectations are completely different from how guys are.
Yeah.
So my colleague in particular was talking about like, oh, why don't guys anymore just come up to you and ask you for a dance? Like,
yeah. So is that coming from? So it's coming from a girl.
Yeah, like a gentleman.
Here's the answer, ladies. Because it's fucking scary. Why don't you come up to us? It's a Me Too. You know, it's equality theory.
And I said like,
welcome to feminism. It's a wonderful thing.
Oh, she's been in a relationship for a long time now. So I say things change. Like you don't go up to a girl and ask her for a dance. That's insane. Or for a drink.
Actually, if you do, it's quite
weird.
It's weird, but then they kind of don't know what to do.
What these people do nowadays is you make eye contact with somebody from across the room.
Google the shit out of them.
No, you don't do that. You make eye contact with them across the room, and then you slowly move together to you meet in the middle of the room.
I don't know. I've done that before. But I've always been a bit bolder. And then again, though, I mean,
you kind of slowly dance over it to each other, very slowly.
But then they're always in packs as well. It's impossible to break the pack. And also, like, all it takes is one of their friends like, no, she's with the girls tonight, and you're fucked. And it's not your fault.
Yeah,
you're just trying. You're just sitting there. It's like, yeah, but I'm really lonely. It's like I just want somebody to love me. And and then you've got like, it was horrible. I remember the oldest. I had this one case where like. I was always like, not the ugly duckling, believe it or not, ladies. No, but I was like, my mates are all quite good looking fellas back from home. And one of them in particular called Sexy Stevie, who I think I might have mentioned before. He's now almost married, actually. He's just bought a house with his girlfriend.
Almost married.
Yeah, I know, honestly, they're on the way. I mean, he's definitely made some life choices there. She's amazing though. So yeah, fair enough. Anyway, but the point is though, that like these girls would all flock to him because he was a big, muscly, sort of handsome, laddish type. And then we'd sort of be not stuck with anyone. We're never stuck with anyone, but I was in this club and I was just trying to find my mates and I was just trying to get past this girl. There was like a narrow bit about the width of this table. And there was this girl who, I'm not going to lie, she wasn't, I mean, no one was going to ever accuse her of skipping a meal. I mean, like her ass was, I'm not going to lie, she was taking up a fair bit of space. And I'm not into fat shaming. I don't think you should ever call anyone fat, but I mean, like she definitely wasn't an athlete.
Yeah.
And and I was just like, excuse me. So I had to tap her on the back because she couldn't hear me.
Yeah.
I was like, excuse me, I'm just trying to get to the toilet. I was trying to get my way past.
Yeah.
And she turned around and goes, you wish. I'm like, oh dearie me, you are so lucky that there's so much noise here because I'm going to destroy you. And and not in the way you think I want to.
Not in
not in your version of events, darling. No. But that was it. I mean, but you had to deal with shit like that. And I think that created a very important thing where you actually learned rejection.
But do you think it's like her reaction is to do with how other guys have treated her? Maybe like other guys maybe touched her, maybe tried it on with her like that.
I don't think they did.
Do you think she's just being arrogant about it, or?
I wouldn't say that she was being arrogant, but I wouldn't say she was very nice about it. And I definitely was.
But that was my question. So do you think it's to do with how other guys maybe have approached her?
I do feel that
instead of being instead of being like a gentleman or talking to the other guys, just kind of grabbed, because I've seen that where guys will like just grab onto a girl when the girl's not even looking, and then she turns around like, who's this?
Then again, I mean, I've seen that. What the bit that I really find really repulsive actually is when a girl's drunk and she's on the sofa in a party. It's happened at uni once. I think you and I actually had to deal with it. I don't know, it was just you and me. I think we kicked the guy out in the end. But we were having a house party at ours once, and this girl passed out. I think it might have been. I
can't remember this.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. You might have been quite drunk as well. But I saw this guy sitting there, and this girl was clearly not. She wasn't making sense. She wasn't able to talk. She needed to go to bed, and she was vulnerable. And this guy started making out with her. I'm like, what the fuck?
Oh, yeah, I wasn't there. You told me about this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was, revolted.
Yeah.
Because it's like, okay, firstly, it's like those guys who drug girls. It's like, what are you getting out of that?
You know what?
That's so repulsive. It's unreal.
I had a housemate in my third year at university, and he was talking. He didn't really go out to the student union like that. He used to just kind of smoke weed in his room and kind of do his own thing.
Fair enough.
But he happened to be going home from the library one day, and he said to me that he saw this girl drunk as shit, stumbling about, and he said to me, "I can't believe nobody was making a move on her." He said, "If I was out, I would have been all over that." He's like, "Oh, she was throwing up, stumbling, drunk." He's like, literally, I'm like, "Do you mean like that's disgusting?"
Oh God, I mean, like,
he's like, "No, you just take her back to yours, give her some mouthwash, she's ready to go." He told me that, and I'm like, Jesus, you're a fucking rapist.
What the fuck?
And you must be a rapist
Who
to
is
say that.
doing that?
Yeah. He said that, and I'm like, I couldn't believe him. I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah. Am I being like super privileged here?
Yeah.
But like, who the fuck actually thinks like that?
That's
like,
disgusting.
That is.
Yeah.
What the fuck is wrong with people?
I've heard
look at my voice going from deep. Let's bring it down to the sexy voice. Yeah. Hey, how you doing? So
that's what I was saying. Like certain people, like perception on what is rape and what's not is kind of completely warped. That's why.
Yeah, like I think I wouldn't say the word rape, but I'd say what sexual assault and what's not really.
Let's be honest. That's rape. Like,
yeah, I mean, like, and I think that with consent,
you must be a predator to even think, oh, that's that's not. Come on.
And also, I think that like it depends on context as well, because I think that in some contexts, like you can have I think that particularly when you're in a relationship with somebody, it can be a little bit blurry in terms of what is and isn't okay. But generally, when they're unconscious, generally when they're that drunk, and generally when they're thrown up or like ill. I mean, I wouldn't fuck my girlfriend if she was ill. Maybe, but but that's not out of me being like gross. That's not because I want, but that's just because she's a nice lady.
I think when alcohol is involved in sex, it kind of creates like a blurred line, or like
it does definitely. In fact, any kind of influence like that.
But like, especially coming from a sober place, seeing a drunk person sober and thinking that it's okay to get with them is kind of a bit messed up from what I think. From what I think,
yeah. I've always had this rule,
but also like I know what it's like to be drunk as well with the drunk person as well. You kind of box in that state.
My rule with that has always been that I would never get with someone who was drunker than I was, but clearly drunker. I mean, like, but don't get me wrong. I mean, like, sometimes you've had had like, I mean, I could drink. I mean, I know, for example, like from last weekend that if I drink 2 bottles of wine, I'm going to be about the same place as my girlfriend's going to be after about 1.
That's exactly. So it's hard to really tell, especially say you're in a nightclub and you just met a girl.
Yeah, but generally, if she passes out on the floor in front of you, like,
but you don't know how much. You still don't know how much she's had. What's her personality?
That's her personality as well. That's the other problem.
You don't know how to gauge it. So she could be a completely quiet person, but now she's a bit like jumping around or whatever, a bit more hyper than she's usually. But you can't tell. She might have had a whole bottle of vodka before coming out. No. So she might be completely out of your mind, but it's hard to really tell.
Yeah,
whether or not she's had too much, and you might have you had a couple, so it's really hard to gauge it. Like, oh, she's had too much, or another person might be you think is acting really drunk, but only had 1 drink.
Yeah, but if they're acting drunk, they tend to be drunk.
But has a hyper personality. Some people have a hyper personality.
Guilty.
So just a bit of Red Bull and a single vodka, they're jumping around.
Yeah, but then
due to the caffeine. So
you still know that the behaviour is not normal.
But how do you know what's normal when you just met a person? So it's really hard to gauge.
Yeah, I mean, they could just be a very interesting, chatty person.
Some people are just hyper.
Who wants to snog you. And to be honest with you, I think as a bloke, because we're not the sexual selectors really, I think that, there's never been a case where a man's been like, well, there has, but I mean, like, as an average bloke, I see that women choose when we're having sex. We don't get to choose. I mean, obviously we can like heavily instigate it, but if she says no, then obviously, like, it ain't going in there, because, I'm not a rapist. It's just kind of the rule, really, isn't it? It's like, like, generally speaking, if the missus is like, look, I've got a headache, you kind of have to believe her. Although, little known fact, the best cure for a headache, it turns out, ironically, is sex.
Yep, I heard that. Well,
yeah, I love that fact. That's one of my favourite facts. But like, I told the missus that she's a doctor. She goes, "No, it's not. Fuck off." And I'm like, she's like, "You're still not getting it." I'm like, "Oh, come on!" It's like, "Look, you made me this hungover. We ended up having sex." Like, "Oh, come on!" So I use my high pitched sexy voice. But no, it's I find that I mean, my general rule, and I've stuck to it all my life, is that if someone's drunker than you or behaving more drunk, then you can't touch him. But then again, it also creates some awkwardness. For example, when it's somebody who you're into and that they're into you. Yeah. And there's also that social pretext and how you interpret that as well, which is very difficult, I find. Because, again, going back to what we were saying before, like, it's like, if I know that a girl fancies me and she's a bit drunk, and I'm a little bit drunk, but she's a bit more drunk, but not too much more drunk, and I reject her, is that going to cause... And even though I really, really want to be with her, is that going to cause further social problems and hurt her feelings and hurt her self-esteem? Yeah. Or is that going to be something that, doesn't, that, I mean, I don't know if they're going to be okay with that, because I don't want anyone to feel insecure because of my actions. Equally, I clearly don't want to hurt anyone. So, it's a bit of a double-edged sword, really, because you don't... And also, every girl that I've dated has had, like, a story of some sort where either someone's made her feel insecure and or has done something that has been not okay.
I think that's kind of crazy to think that like all women have some form of experience with when it comes to like sexual abuse or sexual assault.
It's surprising.
It's not just. I think if every single woman has somebody touch them inappropriately or say inappropriate things to them.
Absolutely, and I think that when we were, for example, I was going through around Indonesia with my girlfriend then, and she would get catcalled by these guys because she was with a white guy. Obviously, that wasn't really sort of... I mean, it's not exactly the same thing, but it made me furious because I just don't see why people think that's acceptable. Yeah. That being said, though, if I was going past a bunch of girls and one of them whistles at me, it's going to make my day. I'm going to be like, see, I told you I was handsome.
So do you think there's a double standard when it comes to like sexual assault or sexual harassment?
I think it's more about the person.
Because I think the assumption is that, guys love it or guy wants it, technically. So I've been out where like, a girl might slap me on the ass or pinch my bum or something.
How do you feel about it?
I don't know. I can't really compare how women feel because
it's the same exact action. Someone slaps your ass.
It's the same thing, but I don't remember ever kicking off at a woman for doing that.
Yeah, I wouldn't do that.
Even if I didn't welcome it, and it's happened from girls that I don't find attractive, and I'm like, what?
Yeah,
but I wouldn't like kick off. But I've been in situations where I see a guy do it to a girl, and she absolutely flips her.
Well, yeah.
I can't really compare it to how a woman might feel because I don't know how it feels to be like in a situation where somebody can like feeling helpless or
vulnerable.
Yeah, vulnerable. Yeah. That's the word, really. So I can't really compare it to how a woman will feel for a man that's like obviously stronger, has more power, to kind of.
I mean, I've been in a situation
almost pretty much violate them. I don't know how that feels.
Or behave violently toward them as well. Because I mean, like. The thing is that for us, it's actually... Well, I mean, yes and no, actually. Because, I mean, I've been in a position where I felt very, very uncomfortable. Because of... Yeah, absolutely. Because, I mean, I know that, I mean, it's still the attitude. It's still that sort of... They're still violating your sort of boundaries, no matter what gender you are.
Did you feel powerless?
I wouldn't say I felt powerless because I was still bigger than them, but I felt harassed because they were kind of going at me trying to grab me, and I was like, well, I don't want you to do that, but all I could really do was take them by the hand and pull them off me.
Because you hear stories about women like years later still feeling traumatized by...
Yeah, of course they would. But
I don't feel traumatized, but I mean, like...
No, I don't. Yeah. I mean, this is something...
It's just like something that happened.
One of those things.
It's something that happens. It's something that happened. I kind of like whatever, move on with my day. So like, pretty much if I go on a night out, it might happen at some point in the night.
Yeah, we'd be lucky.
Yeah.
When a girl throws herself at you and you're just like, look, love, you're drunk and I've told you twice. But the thing is though that it's...
Obviously, like, being in like a serious relationship, like...
Yeah,
I'm not welcoming it, I'm not asking for people to do that. So like... Also,
but you don't give off...
If my girlfriend was there, if my fiance was there, she wouldn't be happy about that.
I'd love to see what happens in front of my
it's funny, one time I went out for my my missus' birthday about a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
And we went out to some place in West End, and she had all of her friends like came out, and there's a married couple.
Yeah.
So we are on the dance floor, and like the husband's dancing, he's like really into his dancing.
Fair enough.
And then the wife is kind of standing near him, but not directly next to him. So he's on the dance floor.
So he's doing his thing.
Yeah, doing his thing.
Fair enough.
And then there's other girls around dancing.
Yeah, so you can have fun with other people.
Hold on. Dancing. Girl in front of the husband, like literally pounces on him, like jumps up on him, and he's like hands in the air. Whoa,
hands are here.
And his wife is a little girl, but she's like really feisty.
Oh shit!
And she kicks off like grabs the girl. And the girl's like, oh shit! No, she's like, who the fuck are you? Like trying to fight her.
Ring on it.
Yeah, she's not realizing the situation. Like I don't think she realized.
Ask me if I've done that before. Yeah. I hit on this girl and she goes, actually, I'm engaged. Yeah. And this is at uni.
Yeah.
Sorry, I don't mean to talk over you there.
Yeah. So I don't think she realized that's his wife. So she's like, who's this girl grabbing me? Trying to fight back. So like this girl's trying to go. She's trying to go for the wife. I grabbed the girl, like, sort of thing, holding her back. The shit's all kicking off. Her friends are trying to jump in. It's like...
Oh, no, that's so bad. I had a little misunderstanding when I was at uni. It was like my first couple of weeks. And I was at the bar, like the uni bar. So fair play. You assume everyone's under the age of 20. right? And there's like this 22-year-olds there, and for some reason they were. She goes, "Oh, I'm sorry." I went over and I hit on her. I was like, "Hi, sorry, you're absolutely stunning. Could I get your number? Because I'm quite forward." And
smooth.
Yeah. Well, just cut the shit. I ain't got all day. I've got like 4 more girls on the list. In my imagination, and actually,
just put your number in my phone.
Yeah, I was like, look, honey,
I might call you later.
Make sure there's 11 in there. Don't fuck me over. I've been here before. Anyway, so this girl goes, actually, I'm married. And I'm like, bullshit. I'm sorry, but you're gonna have to try better. I wasn't putting it on her at that point. I was like, if she says she's married, I genuinely was just questioning the fact that a young woman like that would be married. And I was like, come on, really?
Yeah.
Really? And then I turn around, her husband's like holding his ring finger up, like, mm-hmm. And I'm like, no fucking way. To him as well. Yeah. And I was like, you to come here. Why? Come on. Why are you two?
Why would you do such a thing?
Why would you get married? And he goes, well, you just hit on her for a reason. And I was like, all right, fair play. So I bought them both a drink and apologized. But I think that, because
it sounds like they were good.
I was embarrassed. Hey, we're lovely. Yeah. And I wasn't being I think that if a guy hits on your girlfriend but has the decency to fuck off, or if you're clearly with her and he's hitting on her, then he needs he's a sleazy little shit and he needs to fuck
a complete violation.
Can't stand that. Yeah, because it's disrespectful not to you but to her.
Yeah,
because she's clearly sitting there saying like this is the guy I'm with.
I think it's a disrespect to you. He's doing it in your face.
Yeah, but he is, and so he's disrespecting you, but he's also really disrespecting her, and I think that's more important because it's like I feel
if I'm not around and somebody hits on my girl, there's not obviously first there was nothing I can do about it. She's an attractive girl.
She is.
Yeah, so
lovely lady.
There's nothing I can really do about it. So yeah, whatever. But if I'm standing right there and you see the situation and you're still trying to do that,
that's ego on it. I don't understand that level of ego. I mean,
I think me and you need 5 minutes outside.
Yeah, exactly. No, I mean, and the rest. Come on, I'll trade. I'll be like, oh, goody, I'm coming. Sorry, love, I'm going to ruin the night. Out you go. But no, it's just like. But then again, is it worth having a fight? Because you're not going to get back in. It's going to ruin everyone's night just because this dick.
True.
And all just because this dickhead's got an ego on him. And it again goes back to sort of egos like Trump's and but you get them in every club. You get that guy who's maybe a bit. Just
part of the reason I actually don't actually like going to clubbing with my missus. It's you feel like you have to be on guard.
It's exhausting.
I think you kind of feel that way, and you feel like
I mean, I know that you're not a possessive guy either.
I'm not obsessive at all, but if you go to the toilet, I don't want no guy coming up to her like that.
Yeah,
especially standing there by herself, it's a bit awkward.
But then again, though, if I was single,
I prefer to go out.
Want to approach her before I approach anyone from the gaggles because it's not easy target, but it's because you're more likely to be able to actually say something to them without embarrassing yourself.
Yeah.
And if you do embarrass yourself, ever so sorry, and walk away because that's okay.
Yeah.
But again, you got to be just. I mean, I don't understand people who don't hear a girl say, "I'm sorry, I'm with someone." If they're saying I'm with someone and you keep going. You're a cunt, and she's not going to come home. Some people don't mind though.
Some people don't care. They're like, I don't care if you're with somebody. I'm just trying to get in there.
I don't get it.
Yeah.
I think
for me, once you said that to me, I'm like, okay, though, I'm not going to really bother with the situation. But some people don't care.
That's just weird. Because who wants to be in a 3-way anyway? Well, but who wants to sit there and be like? Oh yeah, I'm gonna have sex with this girl, and then I'm never gonna. Okay, either I'm never, well, okay, that's a one-night stand described perfectly. I just think it's
a lot of guys.
Yeah, quite. Yeah, I mean to be fair, I think I've actually said
no string of
once, and I didn't mean it.
Yeah, but some girls I think men get the bad reputation for cheating.
Oh, girls do the same thing, absolutely.
But girls are quite bad as well because I've had girls come up to me and then talking, exchange numbers, and then you'd be messaging each other, and they'd be like, "Oh yeah, my boyfriend's doing one." Man, boyfriend? Why did you come up to me
Why would you give me your number?
Yeah.
And in that context, I mean, don't get me wrong. If it's a work friend and you're at a bar, oh hey, how are you? I haven't seen you in ages.
Why would you come up to me in a club?
Yeah, that's weird. I think that's because they want attention. Yeah. Or I mean, again though, I mean, I like.
But for me, I don't really. Once you told me something, I'm like, okay, I'm not wasting no more time.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah, because I'm not really into I'm gonna try to get in there. But also, if it happened without me knowing, that's
if you had sex with somebody they didn't tell you that, then it goes back to what we were saying about honesty and being truthful. And I think though that automatically you're on the back foot anyway, no matter what position you're actually in. Because what if you end up liking them actually?
Yeah.
Because I mean, I've met girls who I thought were amazing.
Yeah.
And but at the end of the day, they've chosen somebody else.
Yeah.
And these are people who were not necessarily going to let go of that for whatever reason.
For me, it shows the quality of a person.
Yeah,
I wouldn't like.
You got to respect them.
I definitely wouldn't want to go out with somebody if that cheated on their partner to get with me. Like,
it does depend on what stage in their relationship they're in.
It doesn't matter what stage.
I don't know, man.
For me, I wouldn't want to. I would like obviously hook up with them and do.
If they're in the process of a divorce, but they're still married, and they're
that's
divorced,
different though.
Yeah.
That's different. You actually,
if they're in that
you actually separated.
True.
If you're in that process of divorce, but if you're like fully living with each other, full on couple.
Oh yeah, then that's different.
And he's like well, at work, and you're trying to get with other people, or he's somewhere else, and you're like when
weird.
he's not. Every time he's not around, you're trying to get with other people, and I'm like.
Then you've got a broken marriage anyway, and you need to sort that out first. I mean, adult about it. Like,
for me, I would have been like, oh, that's the one for me. Like,
yeah, exactly. I'd be like, yeah, it's like, hang about. If she's doing that to him, then what's saying when I get a proper job? You know, like if I'm working nights and stuff, where's she gonna go?
Exactly.
You know, you'd be perpetually paranoid. I think
she'd do that to him. She's gonna do that to you.
Yeah,
so
why would
you?
Like,
I wouldn't.
This is someone who she stood at an altar with and said, "No, I do."
Yeah, I wouldn't. I wouldn't. Like, I wouldn't find that appealing for me. Like,
no.
I would, if I was to do anything like that, I would only be in it for one thing, and then once I got that, I'd be like, yeah, I'm done.
Okay, so we've been talking a bit too long now, and I'm sure you're probably gonna be intimidated if we go any further.
So stay tuned for part 2 coming soon.